All right, we're in. That means it's serious business now. This is Jake Sukoff with Uppercase Brands presenting to you DTC WTF. DTC WTF. It is a show that is. I'm going to have to edit this for sure.
It's always the
This
hardest
is,
part.
I know, right? All right, one more time. This is Jake Sukoff with Uppercase Brands presenting to you DTC WTF, a show about successful e-commerce brands, their founders and operators. But unlike other shows that focus on startups, we only care about the failures. I think it's a disservice to aspiring founders to pretend that entrepreneurship is just butterflies and rainbows. It is messy business, and the people who found these companies and run them go through many trials and tribulations before they get to the promised land. It is a constant journey. With me today is Dustin Reichmann. He is the marketing director of FireCreek Snacks. Thanks so much for being with me today, Dustin.
Absolutely, Jake. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'd love to get started just talking a bit about you and FireCreek Snacks. I'd love to learn more about your background. Tell me about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I joke with people that I'm an engineer who does marriage coaching and sells meat snacks. So I got kind of a varied background. For 18 years, I was a professional engineer, consultant, led a team of specialized traffic engineers, and parallel to that, starting in 2009, I kind of got in the online blogging game. Company we created called Engaged Marriage, which is still going strong today. It doesn't take as much of my time anymore, but I kind of cut my teeth there, learned a lot about digital marketing, creating content, and we've got a bunch of digital courses and membership site and that sort of thing over at Engaged Marriage. Um, so I was doing that while I was working full time. And then in the end of 2017, I took the leap, left my corporate job, and have been self-employed ever since. So I do Engage Marriage. I do some marketing consulting with some online coaching, helping people leave full-time, engineering type of jobs or IT or accounting, those types of people that think like I do in systems, and help them make that leap to self-employment. And then FireCreek Snacks is really where I spend a lot of my time these days.
So tell me more about FireCreek Snacks.
Yeah, so we're a better for you protein snack company. So our primary products are snack sticks. So they're low carb, high protein. But in that world, there's kind of two spectrums. There's the stuff you find at the corner gas station, which is full of a bunch of artificial junk and additives and preservatives and not good for you. And then you have ultra clean, kind of Whole 30, paleo certified, grass fed beef brands. And so those have been very popular in recent years. We're kind of the happy marriage of the two. Our preference for taste and texture is not met with either of those. And so we are all natural, no artificial ingredients, but we combine beef and pork. So it's a better texture, a better taste. We use real hickory smoke. So it's kind of an old fashioned way to produce the product. And so, yeah, that's been kind of our bread and butter is we've got everyone from, yoga moms to hunters. So kind of the traditional snack stick consumer that just wants protein and good taste, but we've got, people that need to eat gluten-free, people that can't have certain allergens. We can meet all those boxes as well. So that's FireCreek. That's what we sell. We have some seasonings and some ancillary products, but it's primarily those snack sticks.
Hmm. You're getting me hungry now. I'm thinking
I
about.
have to send you some.
I'm thinking of my college days where I subsided off of Slim Jims and beef
Yeah.
jerky, and I think there's definitely a move in general towards healthier options, higher quality options. There's obviously a direct-to-consumer e-commerce moment happening today, so you're
Right.
you're clearly onto something here. How did you decide specifically on snacks sticks as opposed to some other medium?
Yeah, it really came from my business partner Ryan Hansen. So he is a third generation butcher shop owner. So his grandpa started a local meat business, 1952. So he's got this real authentic story. And he created originally jerky, and then he transitioned his recipes over to snack sticks, just easier to sell, a lot better price point, a lot easier to replicate and produce. So he was already in that process. He was selling them locally in his two retail locations, and I met him in middle of 2018. Just I was browsing in his shop. I actually bought some FireCreek snacks and I took them home. I was like, these are really awesome, great branding, cool logo, and of course that piqued my interest. But then I turned around and saw that they were made in Jerseyville, Illinois, which ironically is my hometown. I no longer live there, but it's like a farm town of 7,000 people. And I'm like, how in the world are these made in Jerseyville? And how have I never heard of it? And then it kind of clicked. I realized that his company, Hanson Meat Company, was the same address as these snack sticks. So I reached out to him, and it wasn't really about FireCreek at first. It was just wanting to get to know him. He's about my age, similar interests, similar families. And I ended up helping him do marketing for his brick and mortar shops. That went really well. And so by the end of 2018, he was really wanting to do more with FireCreek. He had no background in online marketing. He just was, brick and mortar wholesale type of expertise. And I had the online marketing expertise. And I said, hey, I can help you sell these. So it started off as just, kind of on the side, helping him do that while I was marketing his brick and mortar. And then it evolved into where I got kind of a gross revenue relationship where all the online sales, I got a little portion of that. And then in 2019, last year, we ultimately became partners, and I bought into the business. And so now he and I run the show and kind of wear all the hats, and have had some really good success though in our first 18, 20, 24 months, I guess.
That's awesome. There's a lot to dig in there. Two
Yeah.
things in particular I'm really interested in hearing more about. The first is finding a co-founder. Gosh, what a hard thing to do. I've heard of so many founders who are looking for that unicorn who gets along perfectly with them and also has complementary skills. Tell me a little bit about getting to know Ryan and discovering the brand, that you liked it, and how you guys came to an agreement that it would be a good partnership.
Yeah, for sure. I have had a couple other business partners, all went reasonably well, but no longer in those businesses for a reason. And so I was pretty careful with the whole thing. I kind of view it like a marriage relationship. It's, you've kind of got to date a while and before you're serious enough to have a partnership. And so that's really what we did. Again, for several months, I worked with Ryan on the brick and mortar marketing. We were meeting on a regular basis. I was kind of proving myself to him. I was starting to understand how he ticks and what his strengths were and what his weaknesses might be. And I think he was kind of feeling me out the same way. And so we eased into the whole thing. Like I said, it was just like, hey, give me, 5% of the gross sales. There weren't many to be had, but I'll build a website, I'll get us on Shopify, and we can just see if this thing has any legs online. And then, we'll get into that was kind of the genesis of our WTF moment, because we went in a little too quickly, but, then in early 2019, we were doing trade shows. So we were trying to go get wholesale accounts. And so we were traveling together, hanging out, being on our feet 12 hours a day at a trade show. You really get to see again, how someone operates under stress, and got to know his family. He got to know my family. And so, yeah, we just developed a really good friendship, relationship. And so it just became kind of the logical next step is, he invited me to participate, as a partner in the business. So I'm still a minority partner, but I've definitely got that interest now. And so it was, in hindsight, it was probably like an 8-month, process to go from getting to know him to becoming a partner. But it just kind of, to me, took logical next steps as far as how much I was investing, with my time and money, how much he was investing on his end. And we're not unicorns. So yeah, we definitely don't always think alike, but I think there's a lot of value in that. And he is completely a genius when it comes to the product. Like, he really knows his stuff. He great ideas for recipes, for flavors. He's got great relationships with our co-packers. So he really can just handle that manufacturing product side. And, he's got the facility there. So we actually, still use his warehouse space. So he had those physical assets too, that we really needed. But I'm very much, more advanced with online marketing. And we've both kind of learned wholesale at the same time, going to trade shows and how to have relationships with retailers in addition to our DTC side of the business.
Every time you open your mouth and speak, there's more and more I want to dig deep into. We don't have enough time today. I mean, talking about Ryan coming from the background as a third generation butcher, about the fact that he already has warehouse and facilities where you guys can manufacture and produce this. It just makes me think deeply about, if you want to start a business, you got to think about your competitive advantage.
Yep.
What do you have that other people don't have? And this is something that's in his blood. It's his birthright. And you guys, you say you're not unicorns, but in the way that I was using it, you do have those complementary skills that you're looking to find in a co-founder. You can attack
100%.
the digital online side of it. He has the relationships and knows how to work the product side of things. And so that's hugely, hugely important. So you guys really do complement each other quite well. The other thing you touched on earlier that I wanted to speak a little bit about is starting. You mentioned that he started with wholesale and getting into brick and mortars before you came in and pivoted the strategy a bit to including more on the online direct-to-consumer side. And I think that's so refreshing to hear. There's so many people who are starting new businesses today who are obsessed with, it's got to be DNVB, it's got to be online only. We're going to own everything. We can't let some other third party muddy up the waters of how they present our brand. It's got to come from us. And yet, especially for food and beverage, that is the traditional path to go. If you want to achieve scale, it's something that's hugely important to do. So tell me a bit about moving from that primarily retail strategy into this direct-to-consumer channel.
Yeah, 100%. So initially where Ryan had distribution was local, so he had his own brick and mortars, and he plays a lot of golf and has a lot of good relationships with PGA pros in our area. So he was probably in 20, 30 golf courses. I'm in the St. Louis region in Southern Illinois. So kind of that was the footprint. He had picked up one convenience store chain that was about 40 stores. So he had done some work on the distribution wholesale side. And again, that's what he knows. He sells his meat products to other retail locations in our area, bars, restaurants, caterers, that sort of thing. So he understood that business model. I came from, engaged marriage, a lot of other projects that were all online. And the consulting I did was, I might be helping local businesses, but it was almost always with online marketing. And so he was not at all resistant to being online. He just didn't know where to start. And I knew, kind of where to start, but I didn't know anything about wholesale. But again, we kind of jumped both feet in on both, or we tried to, and created major issues for us in the first, 3 to 6 months of the business. So kind of paint that picture. I said, I kind of got involved in late 2018. In January 2019, Ryan's like, hey, you want to go to a trade show? I was like, sure. I've never been to a trade show. I don't even know what it is. So we flew to Orlando, Florida, and we went to the PGA merchandise show. So it was golf, basically the biggest golf trade show of the year. And we flew down a bunch of samples. I took a stripe reader or a square reader on my cell phone because I don't know anything about purchase orders or anything, So we're just basically sampling like crazy. These golf pros, their families are coming by and they're taking the product and like eyes light up like, wow, this is different. And we started explaining that it's healthy too. It'd be great for people on your course. And we were just taking orders, swiping credit cards, just selling like crazy. I think we sold in like 120 courses in the 3 days we were down there. And so that 2019 kind of got sucked over into a lot of wholesale because we just kept signing up for the next trade show. The next trade show was like, we were having success. The website existed. I had kind of transitioned the local email database that we had from his local business that I, helped him set up. We were able to leverage that. So we did get some online sales from kind of local consumers and, got referrals. We're doing some partnerships and some giveaways, and we were generating some online business. But I don't want to spoil the big disaster, but we kind of started off huge into Facebook ads, went way too fast, almost bankrupted us. And I think it made Ryan especially gun shy that like, hey, we can't do that. Let's just keep going to trade shows. And so we went to 12 trade shows last year. Eventually got smart enough to realize we couldn't both go to all of them. It was horrible. But so we kind of started alternating, but in total we went to 12. And you just learn so much because you're literally standing there trying to get people to stop that are walking by, almost like a carnival barker, and saying, and so you learn like what gets people's attention, what do you got to lead with, what do people care about, and then what feedback do they give you. And so we went to a lot of independent hardware trade shows, like an Ace Hardware, True Value, those sort of things. And we do that because they're independently owned, so those owners can make the decision on the spot. And we sell an impulse item. So you might see it at a checkout at a grocery or grocery store or a convenience store. But in that moment at a trade show, we're also a very impulse purchase for that owner. So we learned a ton about how do we present the brand, what kind of bold claims do people respond to, what are the objections? That was the biggest thing. So we would have a middle-aged woman with her kids walk by, and maybe her husband is kind of the lead guy at the hardware store, but he's in another part of the trade show, and they're just walking around looking for candy in the impulse snack aisle. you whip out, hey, you got to try this. And then once you convince the mom to let the kid try it and the kid lights up, then the mom wants to try it. And it, like, their family becomes a convert, and then they bring in their husband back over. We got to get this in the store. This is so much different, and you're in an aisle with maybe 6 other jerky companies. You're in there with the big names that everybody knows in the space. And you just, how do you differentiate? What makes your product different? And so that was super kind of painful to go through, and took a lot of endurance to get through those trade shows, especially I'm an introvert, and like doing that and talking to people for 12 hours, and it's just insane. But it very much translates now to our direct to consumer business, because we understand firsthand. I've probably stood face to face with over 1,000 people, probably 5,000 people who have sampled the product and gave me immediate feedback.
There's so much to love about that. I mean, like you just said, nothing can replicate speaking to your customers face to face, seeing their reactions as they try the product. You always have to be constantly talking to your customers, constantly engaging with them to understand what's working and what's not working. Trade shows, for anybody who hasn't been to a trade show, going to trade shows is like cold calling in terms of how quickly it expedites your learning in sales. Just, for every reason you just said, it is the Olympics of sales. You need to go in with your head on a swivel, ready to adapt, and it'll really get you a lot better, like you said, at handling objections, about properly positioning your product, about helping people understand what the value proposition is. And another thing that I heard you say earlier, trade shows are working. So we did trade shows. We did more trade shows. We went to, I think you said 12 last year. And it's so important in business to be adaptable. Don't create a strategy and stick to it if it's not working. You have to take what the world is giving you. This thing was successful, and you were able to properly identify that this was a great channel for you guys to grow the brand and grow your sales. And so you went with it, and that's what you need to do. It's really when people are stubborn and they say, well, this isn't our plan, we can't, we can't go down that path without understanding. Plans change. You can't be that inflexible.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, so 2019 kind of became the year of trade shows. 2020, we were coming into it thinking we're way too heavy on that side. We're 90% of our business was wholesale in 2019, probably maybe 80, but 80 or 90%. So we went into 2020 with the full intention, we're going to do some targeted trade shows, but we're going to definitely focus a lot more time and energy online. And then COVID happened and the trade shows all started getting canceled. So I'm grateful for that experience. I'm sure we'll end up in trade shows when the world changes back and people feel comfortable actually sampling food in an open. It's hard to even imagine last year now that, people are self-serving little pieces of, samples off of a tabletop and talking. And it's like, wow, I'd never do that again. So hopefully that'll come back at some point. And there are virtual trade shows and things, but it's a completely different experience when you're an impulse snack that, like, our biggest constraint in marketing is education, because we're not Slim Jim, and we're also not these brands that people have tried because they want to have a healthy snack, but then it's like they have to tolerate eating it. It's like, no, we like really taste awesome and it's healthy. It's not maybe it's totally clean as some of these other items, but our education is take one bite. So we say, one bite and you'll be a believer. It's like, if you're going to like our product, you're going to know one bite that is different. The texture is different. And that's how, that's the best way we can lead. Really hard to do that, virtually. It's hard to do that online. So translating that trade show experience online has been successful, but challenging. So again, COVID kind of was complementary to our timing. And you mentioned earlier, there's kind of an e-commerce boom now because people are more comfortable buying online, and the necessity of wanting food delivered to your house. And, maybe like me, I have kids running around the background because, one of them's home on quarantine and one has a hybrid school schedule. It's just having those healthy snacks at our fingertips at all times is kind of a quality of life issue a lot more now than it was last year, when we could just, if we needed snacks, we just run to the store. Like, we don't do that now. We order everything online. So
you mentioned trying to replicate that experience of being able to try this in public, like people were at trade shows, to the online experience. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How do you translate that?
Yeah, a lot of it is we do through partnerships. So like this, getting on a podcast, having someone in a kind of shoulder industry. So one example would be someone that's a former client of mine, helped kind of build his business. He does online tutorials for barbecue. And so his audience likes meat, but he's not selling meat sticks. So for him to send an email to his audience, there's that built-in trust, and he can describe it in a way that relates to them. If I get on a podcast talking about Ryan, talking about the brand story, then people understand it's different. So in some ways it takes longer, to get people to understand the difference. And the most direct way that we've done this that's been quite successful this year is with free sampling. So we do basically a free plus shipping, funnel. So people can get 6 snack sticks. We have 3 flavors currently, so they can get 2 of each flavor for free. They cover the shipping. We lose a little money on each of those, but we have an immediate upgrade option, and then of course our lifetime value is really high because we get a lot of recurring revenue being a replenishable product. So that's been kind of the most direct way, is like, hey, I can't hand this to you through the screen, but the best thing I can do is send it to you at no risk. It's free. You just cover a small shipping charge. And so we've had a lot of people take us up on that as well. And then the final piece of it, I think, is just the messaging. It's just, like we lead with exceptional taste, clean ingredients, because that's kind of the marriage that we have. We're not trying to sell you that we're a Whole30 approved. There's it's all grass fed. That's not our game. But at the same time, we want you to know that you're going to feel good eating this snack. It's not going to give you brain fog, and it's not going to make you have an upset stomach like some of the stuff that you assume it is going to be like.
Some of those other brands out there.
Other brands, right? Yeah.
So I just want to hit on one other thing before we dive into the big WTF moment. You earlier were talking about moving from retail and wholesale to online. For people who are just starting out, maybe they are in that exact situation, maybe they're a totally new brand and are looking to start out. What were some of the things that you did that were low lift, high results, that really delivered an outsized ROI?
It's really, for us, it's been all about partnerships. And so I kind of described a few of those earlier. But things that don't cost upfront money, they take some time, they take relationship building, getting involved in groups that would care about our message, and then, delivering on that. And so that's been our biggest thing. And we'll get into the WTF moment. We still do Facebook ads. I manage those in-house now. And, we'll likely go back to an agency at some point, but so we do that, but that's 10% of our, DTC revenue is direct, ads. In that sense, it's just really been about building relationships, building partnerships. Podcasts have been really, really helpful for us. And a lot of times, just because I like to talk about business, I'll go on a business themed podcast, but it results in direct sales because there's enough people listening to that like snacks. So they want to try this healthier snack, see what it's all about. They'll maybe try the free sampling. So really, I'd say that's been the number one key to our growth this year, is identifying partners, building relationships, and those have long-term value that has produced outsized results for us.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Without further ado, I'm really excited to get into your thing as an agency operator. We hear horror stories all the time about people who've worked with other agencies. So you mentioned you almost went bankrupt, but give me the story. Give it straight from the horse's mouth. Set the stage. What was going on? Where were you in the life cycle of the business, and what happened?
Absolutely. So this was pretty early on in the business. We were, we had our website. We were on Shopify. We had made some initial sales, and Ryan had an acquaintance through golf who owned an agency. And so he's like, hey, we should talk to these guys. So that's fine. I wasn't a partner in the business at that time, right? I was kind of guiding the marketing online, but I didn't have I wasn't invested in the business. It wasn't my money, I guess is a short way to say it. And so we talked to these guys in like November, and they're like, hey, holidays coming up. Now's the time. We got to jump in. And so he agreed and jumped right in for like a 3-month initial commitment. And basically we just went way too deep, too quick. I mean, for one, we didn't have all our processes really dialed in. We didn't have our messaging dialed in, because this was pre-trade shows, right? We kind of knew what we wanted the brand to be about, but we weren't kind of refined through fire like we became. And so this agency was charging, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was multiple thousands of dollars as a monthly management fee, which wouldn't be unreasonable if you have a big ad budget. And, they're making creative. They flew into St. Louis and met us. They're treating us, like a pretty important brand. We were brand new. Ryan was basically, bootstrapping this with his own money. And they, kind of say, hey, let's do this crazy aggressive plan with the Facebook ads. And so I think to justify their high fees, they wanted to spend a ton on ad spend because this is the only way we could possibly get an ROI out of the whole thing. And never got an ROI. I mean, we weren't even breaking even on the ad spend, let alone their fees. And so, yeah, we kind of burned from December, January, February. We did those 3 heavy months, multiple thousands of dollars in ads, ad spend, as well as fees. And we're also going to trade shows and traveling and paying. Those are not cheap. Like the PGA show is like $12,000 or $14,000 to attend, just the booth space. So Ryan was burning a lot of money. I guess that in hindsight, that gave me an opportunity because it's kind of at the end of that period where things were really tight that I was able to kind of throw some cash into the game, become a partner. So the timing worked out, and kind of we took a deep breath and kind of made it through 2019 profitably after that. But yeah, that was really the moment. Was just, he jumped in, or I'd say I'll take some partial credit too. We jumped in both feet way too fast, tried to spend way too much ad spend. Of course, in the peak of the holiday season, in hindsight, terrible time to try something new and spend, thousands of dollars on Facebook. And so, so we got burned pretty hard. I understood the approach. I kind of understood what was going on. I could see a longer term view, but it wasn't my money at that point. And Ryan, this was brand new to him, and he trusted his friend's agency, sort of thing. And they were not bad people. We still actually have, we exchange emails. They just were trying to go too big, too fast for a brand in our really very early startup stage.
A lot of great learnings there. The biggest one I can distill out as, don't do it until you're ready. I mean, paid social ads can be incredibly powerful. You need to be ready. You need to have everything you were talking about. Make sure you have your mission statement, your brand assets. You understand who your target demographics are, what unique sales proposition people are going to respond to, what types of creative they want to look at. You mentioned that they had in-house creative capabilities, which is good, but is it the right creative? And for speaking as an agency operator, was there testing done beforehand? Intense testing to make sure that we're going to scale profitably? Anytime we are working with a new client, there are no assumptions. It's not, well, I think that this is going to resonate with golfers who are 25 to 45. No, I don't want to hear anything. If you haven't tested extensively and you know that the money is flowing to that demographic, you do not just assume. It's not gonna work out well. So, and the other aspect is, like you said, starting in November, right before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, when CPMs are going to skyrocket, everything's going to be 20 to 30% more expensive, not laying down the groundwork. Well, it's a good thing you guys persevered. You made it through, and now I'm sure you're ready. This might kill our evergreen content a little bit, but I'll date us here. We're just before Black Friday, Cyber Monday at the time of this recording. So, talk to me. What's your strategy for that right now?
Yeah, so I mean, we're always running retargeting ads, and it's like the low hanging fruit. So we are remarketing. We get a great ROAS on that, and then we're typically running some small campaign. And so like one that's been successful is just like staying in the St. Louis area for people that are interested in gluten-free eating and targeting women. So it's basically moms, and so our message we can lead with is a St. Louis made product. It's gluten-free and it's free delivery to your doorstep. And so that's but it's kind of there's not a huge audience, but it's a profitable audience. And so like you said, that initial push, it was all assumptions. It was done in the name of testing, of course, but we tried so many different audiences all at once with tons of different creative. We didn't even have professional, photos of our product at that point. So they were like, grasping at straws, trying to do in-house stuff with that. And it was just way too much too fast. And so now this year, Black Friday, still doing kind of like I said, some Facebook ads stuff. I just handle it in-house. We will, probably next year be looking to get back into the agency game. We'll definitely start smaller when we do that. But yeah, right now we're trying to kind of create a sense of fun around the brand. And so we're doing something right now as we speak. It'll probably be closed maybe when people are watching this later, but we're calling it the Golden Ticket Giveaway. And so it's basically Ryan in a Willy Wonka style hat. And we're selling these bundles that are a 3-carton bundle. So they're great for gifts or for keeping them yourself. They're $99 with free shipping. So it's like 15% off, free shipping offer. So the offer is solid, but then for every 200 bundles, we're giving away $1,000 prize. So we basically made these golden tickets. We're hiding them in orders. And so as we get to every 200, we're drawing Ryan and his kids or his wife or whatever, they're doing random number generator. And then we're able to send that back out to our audience, say, look, this number is the next winning number. And so we're just creating some buzz with this golden ticket giveaway. So that's been really successful so far. We're going to run that until like the Friday before the week of Thanksgiving. And then, so we've kind of got everyone who would be interested at that level of offer in our audience, our retargeting audience. And I was on another podcast that they generate a lot of sales for that. And then we're going to dial that down. We're going to kind of do a last chance on that in that giveaway. And then the week of Thanksgiving will be more of a traditional site-wide kind of tiered discount. So I don't know exactly, but probably like 10% off for low dollar orders, 15% off for over 50 and maybe 20% off for over $75 orders on the site. So that way people that weren't really wanting to spend $100 and, get into the hoopla of the giveaway, they just want to buy maybe 1 carton or, some seasoning to give away as a Christmas gift. It'll give them that kind of traditional Black Friday experience. But we are going to do a little early. I think that's kind of the trend everywhere from Walmart, on down. Everyone's kind of doing early this year. We're not sure what shipping is going to be like after Thanksgiving. So we're just kind of doing a more traditional Black Friday experience. But for the first 2 weeks of November, it's been all about this golden ticket giveaway. It's been a lot of fun.
Love the creativity there, and just goes to show if you are a brand, have some fun with it. Let's not be all stuffy and lame. Let's do some flex that creative muscle. I mean, if you are doing what everybody else is doing, you're competing with everybody else, your costs are going to skyrocket. If you can get out of the box a little bit, if you can do things a little bit differently, you are primed for good returns. So
we're always trying to highlight. I mentioned sometimes in our email, I write all the emails as Ryan, but Ryan's very much the face of the brand. So anytime we can also like be at his house or highlighting his twin boys, because that's part of the story of the brand is one of his boys has a peanut allergy. And so his wife became a real label reader and so did he. And so they understood how important, not having allergens in a product is and how most of the big brands ignore that. They'll put in something that creates a milk allergy or a nut allergy or, gluten. And so we don't have any of that in the product. So it's like, hey, this is Colin. He's part of the reason we created this brand. It's really authentic. His wife does pack their lunches and puts FireCreek Stix in there. So to have a video or an image of that, I know we just, we'll have share a lot of images of he and I and like packing orders in the back of the warehouse. And it's all legit. It's like, we just did a trade show. Here's the full FedEx truck that's pulled up out back and he just loaded up all our stuff. And so we try to be very open and behind the scenes. And so this golden ticket giveaway was just kind of another way to do that, kind of show Ryan's quirky side. And he's, standing outside with like, again, a big top hat and holding his golden tickets. And it's just something fun.
I love that. I love it. All right, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So you have this disaster where you have overcommitted to ad spend. It's not performing. You're not getting results. Tell me a bit about, bring me back to the moment, your mindset there when this is happening. What did you think was going to happen and what was your immediate reaction and plan?
Yeah, so on my side, I didn't know how much cash Ryan had in reserves to float this, but I could see immediately in December, that we lost money on the campaign. In January, maybe didn't lose as much money, but we're still losing money. And we kind of told them, like, Ryan basically got really upset and was like, this is not working out the way that, we expected. And February is going to have to be our last month if we're not getting a positive, ROI here. And of course we didn't. And so again, we ended amicably, but so yeah, at that time I just think of it as a complete whirlwind. It was crazy. Cause that January we're burning thousands of dollars on ads. I can see immediately that, cause I'm, have access. I'm looking at the analytics. Ryan's kind of getting the monthly reports from the agency, but I already know what they're going to say. So I'm like, this is not going well. So we got that going. We're traveling in Florida to that PGA show. That was that same month. My mother-in-law was very, very sick on a ventilator in the hospital, and I'm leaving that to go down to Florida. And so, I mean, I just remember that being like a very intense time. And then kind of like spring emerged, like we ended that relationship in February. And then I became a partner actually in March. So then I got a lot more involved in the business side of things, not just the marketing. So it was a blessing and a curse. We learned a ton in those couple of months. It maybe accelerated my opportunity to get involved with the company at a partnership level. And we, I guess we just felt a lot of urgency at that PGA show. It was like, we know we're screwed on the Facebook side and we're committed for at least another month there. We've got to make some money at the show, to pay for the show, to pay for all the travel and to kind of help overcome the mistake that we had just made with all the Facebook spend. And we did, it was a successful show, led to a lot of reorders. So kind of for the year of 2019, that was a real pivotal show and a pivotal moment for us. But it was happening literally right in the middle of all the kind of Facebook fiasco. So,
and let's dig a bit deeper into that. So you mentioned you're coming out of this, and what were some of those learnings that really expedited? I mean, you mentioned that you didn't have much of your messaging, your targeting together before then. How did that inform your digital strategy going forward?
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, really, it mostly made us pump the brakes and quit guessing. Like you used the word guess. I mean, if I came to you and I said, who would buy this? Most people are going to say hunters, fishermen. It's, like traditionally those are the consumers, but that's not really our consumer. Like we do really well with keto dieters, with people with, again, moms that need to find gluten-free snacks for their household. So and we learned some of that through those efforts because we quickly learned that we're not getting an ROI on golfers. Well, it's also January and there's maybe half the country can still golf, but a lot of people can't. And so we kind of learned there's a seasonality factor to our product. And then as we're running those Facebook ads, but then also at a trade show, we start realizing the stuff we need to lead with. Like Ryan was all just about the taste. And he would say, my kids can eat this because, they have allergy issues, but that wasn't telling enough of the story, right up front. So started talking a lot more about that. This is from a family of third generation butchers. Like this is an authentic product that's produced entirely in the state of Illinois, which is important to our Illinois, consumers in the St. Louis region too. Illinois, borders St. Louis, Missouri. So, yeah. And then the gluten-free thing, I knew it was gluten-free at the time. I didn't care. It turned out like maybe by providence or whatever, like right around the time I got involved in this, one of my daughters was having a lot of issues and it turned out she's gluten intolerant. So I became a lot more passionate about that and understanding what that meant and how many people maybe have gluten intolerance that don't even realize it and some of the side effects, and so I don't know. It's hard to separate exactly what the Facebook ad spend taught us because it was happening at the same time as so much other stuff in the business with the trade shows and the travel. But I think one of the big things was you can't just throw thousands of dollars immediately at an ad set and expect to get an ROI, expect to get a positive ROAS. Like you really need to ease into things. You need to do small tests and to build on those small tests. And again, maybe that was what the agency would have done, but I think they felt a lot of pressure too. And like, hey, we're charging you all these thousands of dollars. And we know that to overcome that, that's the wording I would use, to overcome that kind of front end load, they had to spend a lot to be able to get, an ROI that included their fee. So I think we all kind of felt pressured. We all felt way rushed doing it in the holidays, doing it when we're trying to kick off all our wholesale craziness. Yeah, I don't know. It gives me a lot of anxiety to think back to that time. 2020, for all its craziness, has been less stressful because I've been able to focus on the things that I know well and, be able to, I haven't had to travel. I traveled to one trade show, I think in February, but I haven't had to travel at all. That's been nice. No trade shows. And, we're having a more successful year. Obviously, direct to consumers, better margins. So as we're growing that, it's a more profitable aspect of our business. And we still have we're still trying to build some wholesale relationships. They're a lot harder to build right now, but we still have many great customers that we on the retail side from last year that have continued to reorder, and kind of keeps that base volume going really well for us.
Yeah. Gone are the days when you can just run ads and expect that they're going to return, 4, 5, 6x. It really does take a lot of careful thought and testing and approaching it with, a real concerted effort and a plan, not just throwing something to the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we did, and I'm sure you, as an agency owner, you probably experienced it, but especially in food and beverage, but there was that kind of magic time right after some of the shutdowns and some of the things this spring where a lot of the big advertisers were pulling out and people were also pursuing products like ours more. And we were getting, just me managing it, we were getting awesome, ROAS. And of course that's tampered down a lot since other brands have went back onto the platform, but also now, we're in the craziness of the holiday season. So I don't expect a really strong ROAS until maybe early next year. So
it's going to be an interesting few weeks, to be sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the election on top of that, it was definitely been a crazy last few months. So
that it has been, to be sure. That's the understatement of the century. Whatever year you're listening to this in the future,
yeah,
he's not lying. It's been very strange. So big takeaway. God, be careful about who you get into bed with. Your partners are an extension of your business, and if you don't choose them carefully, you put yourself at risk. The way that FireCreek Snacks almost went out of business. If you have great operators like Dustin and Ryan, hopefully you can persevere and make it through something like that. But I know a lot of people who have not. You really, really need to be careful about who you're partnering with. And good partners can mean scaling and growth and achieving a new echelon of business that you could not have achieved by yourself. And bad partners could mean the end of business as you know it. So something really important to keep in mind as all of you build out your businesses. Another thing you kind of alluded to, or maybe I'm just deriving this on my own, building a business by yourself and slowly and carefully, and finding channels that are sustainable and that can support your growth. It's always a better option than trying to, throw money at the problem to try to get ahead as quickly as possible. If you are relying only on Facebook ads and on nothing else, you're just going to find it. You could achieve scale, but you're always going to be dependent on those ads. So you got to diversify. You got to find other channels, other opportunities to connect with your customers, and any investment in time you can make upfront before you are a large company will pay off dividends in the long run, to be sure.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. I mean, if we were venture backed and someone just gave us $1 million to start advertising, that agency approach might have worked out over the course of a year or two, just going in hard and heavy and spending tons of money. But we're bootstrapped. It's just Ryan and I's cash on the line, and so we are very judicious. And since that experience, of course, a lot more judicious about where we spend our money and our energy. Like I said, to me, it's the slow and low has been a lot more sustainable for us. And I feel like that's one of our strengths now. We've got a really strong foundation. We've built some great relationships. It's taken time and energy to do that. It'd be a lot easier if the fantasy that I could just sit here at my computer and put up some new Facebook ads and scale to the moon and not have to worry about profitability. But that's just not reality. I mean, for us so far, Facebook's been great. It's a great supplement. It's a good part of our plan, but we learned pretty quickly that it can't be our entire plan for D2C growth.
Totally. And by bootstrapping, you guys own more of the company. Everybody, I don't know what it is. Everybody today is so obsessed with Shark Tank and Andreessen Horowitz and raising capital to scale to the moon, but you give up 20% of your company every time you raise money. If you bootstrap, if you can build a sustainable business yourself, you get to keep it all. You get everything. You get the whole pie. You get to have your cake and eat it too. And I don't know why people are so averse to that. Everybody wants it now. Everybody wants it to happen now. And they don't realize that if you are careful with your growth, you get to own much more of that. So, Dustin, it was awesome speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Your insights are super valuable. Any final thoughts, takeaways, any singular piece of advice you'd give to new aspiring entrepreneurs who are getting started on their own journey?
Yeah, I would say one learning I've had in recent years, it was really the catalyst for how I left my full-time engineering position and got to even have a chance to stumble into this FireCreek thing, is that very few decisions are permanent decisions. So I would hold myself back a lot because I would think, well, that's my identity. I'm an engineer. This is what I've done. I've got a master's degree. Like, how would I leave that? And one day it kind of clicked that, like, I could go try it. And if it doesn't work out, I can just go back and be an engineer again, and like FireCreek was kind of a similar thing. I wanted to do I wanted to do consulting when I left engineering, and I just started locally. I started working with my dentist and my real estate broker, and it was like, people overcomplicate things, and I think we all tend to put way too much emphasis or too much pressure on single decisions. That getting married, forming a business partnership, those things are longer term, pretty permanent decisions, but almost nothing else is when it comes to business. So you can always change your mind, you can always pivot. So try new things, and that's where I think the creativity is freed up, because if you know that it's not a fatal mistake, or it's not going to be something that destroys the business, almost nothing's going to do that if you temper it. So yeah, just that's my big thing for young people or older people, middle-aged people, I guess, where I'd fall into that camp. Yeah, again, I talk to a lot of people that feel stuck in a career. It's like they want to do entrepreneurship, they've got side projects, but they don't know how to make that leap. And that's one of the big key mindset things, is doesn't have to be a permanent decision. You got to make a plan, you got to execute a plan, of course, but there's nothing that says you can't go back and do it if what you try isn't all that you dreamed it would be.
What great advice. I'm going to cut that snippet out, and that's going to go in the beginning of the episode so people can hear that first. That is sage wisdom that people should take to heart outside of building a direct consumer e-com company. That's spot on. Before I let you go, where can people find FireCreek Snacks? Where can they find you? Any social media? Anything you want to plug?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm a pretty open book. If people want to chat, they can just email me. It's Dustin, Dustin, at firecreeksnacks.com. If they want to check out the snacks, it's firecreeksnacks.com. It's the same. FireCreek Snacks is our handle on Instagram, Facebook, and if they do want to do the free sample thing, that's just firecreeksnacks.com/free, FREE. Again, that's kind of a no risk. If they just are interested in the snacks, they want to if they're a marketer and they want to see our free plus shipping sales funnel, it's a great way to kind of funnel hack us and see what we're doing. It is a successful sales funnel for us, so you can kind of see how that operates.
I'm doing that right now.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Dustin. I really appreciate it, man. Take care.
Absolutely.
Best of luck with the upcoming holiday season and everything else.
You too. Thanks a lot, Jake. Great to meet you.
You too. Take care.